Who ate the last breaded cheese wand?
Oh no, I'm sorry. I guess I thought, well, I don't know what.
It's fine.
No. They're your favorite.
Why do you run around in fancy mage clothes?
Because I like them?
You talked with your mother lately?
I'm here to hit things.
That's a yes, then.
Why dress like that? Are you trying to make your mother happy? Starkhaven's full of assholes. It doesn't count as stealing from them. I'll tell her.
And Emmerich would appreciate not being bullied and called names.
Ugh. Fine.
But puzzles give you a chance to test your wits, to prove you're smart enough to be whoever designed it.
Ugh.
I'm not yet finished with my studies. I thought you would help me tonight.
And by help, you mean do it all. You haven't even chopped the melons.
You swing axes all day. Do you lack the strength to chop a few melons?
I'm a crappy Kunari. I'm not really Ravani. I'm no good as a daughter. I'm not even... I can't even be a woman right.
You used your fire.
What? No.
I thought you and your mother had agreed on this.
Nope.
Then what are you?
Non-binary. I just said.
Let's go find your mum.
And then throw that stupid tablet into this volcano and never talk about it again.
I will prepare potions for you to take. Would you prefer ginger or lavender?
The ginger.
Maybe you two can find different things to talk about around each other.
In that vein, could we avoid any dragon trivia?
What? Who doesn't like dragons?
You misunderstood.
Then say it better! I also used to wet the bed. Want me to start that up again?
I'd rather you didn't.
In December of 2021, Warner Brothers decided to spite society by widely releasing The Matrix Resurrections. Coming in just 3 days before Christmas, it was the lump of coal few of us deserved. As most who have seen it will attest, it's an abysmal film. The fight choreography and editing are leagues backwards from the first trilogy. The story is weak, the characters are lame, and themes surrounding identity are ham-fisted, to say the least. To top it off, there's even a weird Disneyfication that permeates a number of scenes. Consider how some machines are relegated to cute and expressive sidekicks. For those who have actually watched it, one doesn't need to be a genius to see that the movie exists to wage battle on multiple fronts. On one hand, Lana Wachowski is clearly trying to stick it to political adversaries who have co-opted themes and visuals from the first film as their own. It's also a commentary about modern filmmaking and sequel culture. But beyond that, it's a film at war with Warner Bros. The whole project comes across as an earnest attempt to tank the franchise's mainstream popularity so that the production company will struggle to continue sequels without the director's support. At one point, they look into the camera and essentially explain this to the viewer. So what does The Matrix 4 have to do with Dragon Age: The Veilguard? Well, a lot, actually, because the similarities are astounding. Cute and expressive critters permeate a large number of cutscenes, making it feel like it's been Disneyfied. LGBT themes are ham-fisted and poorly done, every character is unlikable, and the story is weak. Compared to what came before, it is a step back in almost every direction. Except where The Matrix 4 seems like an intentionally bad movie, I don't believe Bioware set out to make a bad game. This isn't them sticking it to EA, they aren't trying to tank the franchise. But sucks for us because unintentionally tanking the franchise is exactly what they have done. Without an ounce of hyperbole, I believe Dragon Age 4 to be Bioware's worst release of the decade, which is saying something because they haven't created anything of worth in many years. It's a studio that's long been on the decline, and as harsh as it sounds, at this point, I'm kind of rooting for EA to pull an old Yeller and take the studio out behind a woodshed. From my perspective, it seems like the merciful thing to do to an entity consumed by ruinous parasites, because that is what Bioware is now, a husk drained of everything it once was, leached dry by a parasitic infestation. It may be trying to mimic the actions of the host body, but to any outside observer, it's obvious that something seriously dire has occurred. Long gone are the days of so-called Bioware magic. Within Guard, you will find zero compelling characters, the writing is absurdly bad, and while on a technical level it far exceeds that of any previous entry in the series, which hey, that is commendable, the gameplay is mediocre at best and downright offensive at worst. This is a game made by morons who think everyone playing it are equally low in IQ. At every turn, this experience treats the player as if their brain had all the wrinkles ironed out. Puzzles, if you can even call it that, equate to pure nothingness. Look at the screen. See that shield on the rotatable statue? Notice how all the other shields surrounding it are blank, except for the only other shield that also has a picture. There's one of your puzzles. Just match them. No thought required. Made infinitely worse because the game has an NPC tell you how to do it.
Those two statues are the spare key. Line up the symbols.
For the record, this is over a third of the way into the game. It's in part 5 or 6 of 14. The studio has no faith in the player, not even basic bitch pattern recognition that a fucking bird can do. And I don't know about you, but I'm smarter than a bird. Maybe not by much, but I will take what I can get. And I don't need a goddamn NPC telling me to rotate a picture to face the only other matching picture. Like, fucking hell, take waterfalls. In any video game with a waterfall, what do 99% of players do? They try to look behind the waterfall to see if there's any secrets. This is a staple of game design. If you have waterfalls, players expect at least one of them to hide an item. We all instinctively check behind them. It's gaming 101. Well, guess what? Dragon Age the Veilguard doesn't even trust you to do that. While walking towards a waterfall and before I could even process the notion of looking behind it, an NPC told me there was something there. I am baffled at how dumb I was treated by this game, even down to the fundamentals of level design. Things almost never grow more complex than they are in the first couple hours. Here's two videos side by side. The left shows level progression from an early chapter, and the right is from much later. It is functionally the same, and this mindlessness applies to nearly everything. There is only one single puzzle in the final area of a companion quest that I think will give even a casual gamer pause. And trust that I know what I'm talking about here because, as I do with almost all my reviews, to properly gauge every aspect of the experience, I hit 100% completion. On PSN profiles, I'm one of the first 50 people in the world to get the platinum. I have no fucking life. It took me roughly 80 hours, and in that time, almost nothing changed. It's a mind-numbing affair, a digital lobotomy, if you will. Levels are just padded wastes of time. Not once did I feel accomplished by getting from point A to point B. The design is rudimentary. You'll move puzzles from one spot to another, and oh boy, will you do it a lot. But more than half the time, they're just a few steps away. Lasers must sometimes also be aimed at mechanisms, but it's as simple as interacting with a laser and barely moving it from its default position. You're just doing things for the sake of doing things, a perpetual loop of mentally disengaged, busy work. In the first half of the game, there was an instance where I had to move a crystal to make a bridge vanish so I could pop a blight bubble, and then wait for its tendrils to wither away. And that is the deepest this mechanic ever got. A blight bubble was hidden under a bridge, which required less than 1 second of thought for how to solve it, followed by literally 8 seconds of waiting as an animation plays out. There's your level progression. Yay.
But puzzles give you a chance to test your wits, to prove you're smart enough to beat whoever designed it.
Ugh. As I played the game, I couldn't help but think of an infamous GDC talk where a game developer used Darkside Phil as a case study into level design. For those unaware, DSP is a streamer who is excruciatingly bad at video games. He often can't solve basic tasks, and he's prone to bouts of anger because of it. Simple puzzles melt his brain, there's no other way to put it. Yet a game designer from Naughty Dog used gameplay footage of Disp playing Santa Monica Studios' God of War 2018 as an example of good level design because Philip was able to instantly understand how to progress through it, basically admitting to making games appealing to the lowest common denominator. I'm being a bit sassy here as I don't totally dislike God of War 2018, but I do think its level design is weak, as it is in most modern Sony games, and game developers citing Darkside is disheartening to say the least, which probably puts into context why it launched the companions in its 2022 sequel immediately told you how to solve simple puzzles. Kinda familiar, isn't it?
Use your blades to swing the torch.
Anyways, bringing up New Age God of War is fitting because D4 is the at-home version of it, where Kratos has his throwable axe, Dragon Age has a throwable shield. The myriad of chests scattered about and the means of getting to them bear resemblance, as does the pop-up when you obtain new gear. When you get money or sellable goods, that pop-up is also similar to GAO. Dragon Age has the Crossroads, which is a collection of mere doorways that connect different realms via a fast travel system, and God of War has its own hub of connected realms. In God of War, you get new abilities that allow you to open secret pathways, and Shipyard does the same. The combat style is fairly similar, as is is how some optional bosses are divided up. Gao has the Valkyries, which are a bunch of fights that play mostly similar with only minor differences between each one, and Dragon Age has dragon fights that function very much the same, among many other similarities. Games taking inspiration from other popular games is hardly new. It's been an industry staple since the very beginning. So this isn't deep criticism, but if you are a fan of previous Dragon Age titles, just know that this plays a lot differently. I didn't love it, but your mileage may vary. Briefly rewinding back to the topic of puzzles, I want to be clear about something. I'm not asking for Veilguard to be a full-on puzzle game. That's not Dragon Age. But if a developer is gonna design levels around countless progression halts and copy-paste activities, then they gotta do more than this. Gamers need to feel engaged. We want a sense of accomplishment for figuring stuff out. Make me feel like my curiosity is being rewarded because I found the secret waterfall on my own. I don't want to be handheld for 80 hours. And I don't think most of you want to be either. Throughout my 80 hours of pain, I don't recall a single instance where I felt properly rewarded for my time. Exploring the environments left me empty. I got nothing out of it, which has me thinking back to past Bioware games, specifically Dragon Age Origins and Mass Effect, two favorites of mine. Being as old as they are, which, side note, has me feeling ancient because I'm now 35, they don't have as many gameplay mechanics as Veilguard, yet they are far more satisfying to play. Sure, they have puzzles here and there, some of them do suck, but you by and large do less stuff, yet they're more engaging and mentally stimulating. I can play Mass Effect with its emptier environments and lesser graphics, and exploring it still feels more rewarding. I replayed it a couple years ago for probably the 10th or so time, and I still scoured every inch of the Citadel with absolutely no boredom. Why is that? I think it's the writing, specifically with the companions and the discovery of meaningful conversations and lore. Rewards in games extend far beyond just ever more loot, more trinkets, and more money, and older Bioware games used to understand that. Walk the Citadel or wherever else and you stumble upon not just side quests, but people who you can converse with for no other reason than just to talk. And these conversations are great. You're watching people chat back and forth, barely needing to press buttons, but the writing is so strong that you're entertained. You're invested in the lore and the world building. You have therefore been meaningfully rewarded for your time. Da4 has none of that. No longer can you talk to a companion about their past, quizzing them on their lore. There is simply none of that. You can't go up to random NPCs and open tab after tab of new questions which expand your knowledge of the world. Even the side quests are limited in their dialogue, and what's on offer just isn't all that good. There are companion quests, far more than some older games, but these missions suck asshole. Like, oh my god. Their writing is bad, but on top of that, the activities you do are lame. In one mission, you'll slowly walk around as a companion talks at you while you light candles, whoop-de-fucking-do. In another mission with the same guy, you're talked at as you pick flowers. In yet another with someone else, you're talked at as you buy newspapers, and this trend continues for most companions. You'll be talked at as you pick berries, buy gifts for people, feed sets of birds, and pick up fucking rocks. Like, for real. The narrative and quest structure for nearly every companion follows the same trajectory. It is boring. Mind-numbingly so. There's a deeper commentary I could make here about the state of gaming in general. Full stop. Some of the most boring people in existence are making our games. We're deep into the era of the prestige, and that means everything must be drawn the fuck out. But consider Mass Effect 3. In a game filled with widespread death and destruction and other moments of pure excitement, one of the best scenes is when you're just chilling with Garrus and shooting cans out of the air. It's a rare instance of relaxation between two close friends who are just shooting the shit. In this instance, literally. It contains minimal gameplay, but it's an excellent scene with nice emotions because by that point of the trilogy, you have come to deeply care for the character. The scene in and of itself is a reward. You feel good watching it because it's paying off everything you went through to get to this point. But now I can only think of how awful it would be if it had been developed today. Instead of just getting a nice cutscene with some dialogue options, you'd first have to tediously scour the environment or follow some waypoints to go collect the cans. Then you need to find the ammo as you're just robotically talked at by Garrus, followed by taking an overly long path to the balcony where you're going to shoot the cans, and so on and so forth. And don't get me twisted, Player interaction in gaming is great. It's why we're here, and it's why my favorite genre is the immersive sim. I can spend hours piling up boxes in Deus Ex Human Revolution or Prey 2017, all in an effort to find unique paths forward or other environmental interactions. Exploring the lengths of my creativity in Baldur's Gate 3 is an absolute blast. While playing it last year, I spent so many hours moving random junk to a single spot on the map just to block a roaming guard so I could have my own creative way of succeeding in a jailbreak. I set my own task within the limitations of the game, and I had fun doing it. But what many games don't understand right now is that busy work for the sake of busy work is not meaningful interaction. I don't enjoy picking up predetermined rocks or flowers while being talked at with dreadfully dull dialogue. You're just wasting my time, and Veilguard is a master of running the clock. Not even combat provides relief. Enemies are just too spongy, so every battle becomes a war of attrition. Now, in the interest of fairness, I will add that fights can get pretty difficult on higher difficulties, go figure. Which for a game as hand-holdy and mentally degrading as Veilguard is, it is surprising how easy it can become to get your ass kicked if you don't pay enough attention. Quite frankly, with how simple everything else in the game is, it's easy to get stuck on autopilot, so combat can break the stupor. But the hard modes also aren't particularly well made. As mentioned, enemies are super spongy, so upping the difficulty just adds even more time to each encounter. And with minimal enemy variety, adding extra length to each fight only serves to make an already tedious amount of fighting even more so. It's boredom on top of boredom, unaided by repetitive enemy attacks. By that I mean there's multiple big creatures, but their attack animations and movesets are very similar to other big foes, so while they're technically different enemies, the fights play out largely the same way. Being an RPG, there is some variety to how you may dispatch foes, and different players will have different builds, especially as given the size of the skill tree, you will be unable to level up enough to buy everything. There's simply not enough quests or side activities, so you gotta pick and choose the paths you take. I was partial to the Mornwatcher route because a necromancy ability called Bloody Advance was great at upping my rate of murder. I played as the warrior class and it was okay. The combat is functional, it works. I guess I'm more apathetic than anything. It's as robust as it needs to be, and you have enough control over what skills you and your companions use. So all in all, it's functional, perfectly adequate. It's just weighed down by bad enemy design and combat encounters that made me never want to fight again. By the 50-hour mark, I was worn out. I'm not even ashamed to admit, there were times I was so exhausted by the repetitive combat that I just ran past fights, completing progression tasks and then resuming my sprint. I can't remember the last game where I felt like doing that. So take it as you will. You know, dwelling on it, I think the last time I felt so exhausted by repetitive combat was when I reviewed Saints Row 2022, which is fitting because Stalguard reminds me of that game quite a bit. If you saw my review, then you know why I deeply despise it. It sanded down all edge the series previously had, the gameplay was boring, the characters atrocious, combat tedious, it contained next to no humor, and it seemed to have a misguided vendetta against die-hard fans of older entries. Most of those same thoughts apply here too. In Saints Blow, there's a character who constantly touts his love of waffles. A major part of his arc is his want of an expensive waffle maker. He even has a waffle tattoo. Waffle, waffle, waffle. That's all he is. He's the motherfucking waffle man. Well, Dragon Age has a guy who mostly just cares about coffee. Nearly every scene with him involves coffee. If he's not actively making it, he's drinking it. And if he doesn't have a cup in his hand, then he's talking about wanting it. Coffee here, coffee there, coffee everywhere. He's the motherfucking coffee man. Forget the demon who sometimes possesses him and which could create interesting story bits. That comes secondary to his love of bean tea. Oh, did that sound neat? A companion who is partially possessed by a demon? On paper, that's cool, especially because he is also an assassin. And in older games, I bet it'd be magnificent. But here, it's lame and Disney-ish. It plays it too safe, and even when he's being somewhat mean, he still seems nice. I mean, just look at his design. Does that not look like it comes from a kid's movie? It's super lame. His entire shtick boils down to, I'm an expert assassin, and anyone that ever comes after me is dead, and now I want my coffee. It's absolutely pathetic, as is this game's forced modernism. That's a segue, but here's a montage first.
I made a fresh pot and... that's Rook's Walk.
Yeah, just me. You brought Nev coffee?
Smells like jam and brimstone. That coffee in the kitchen, you made it?
Keen eye.
Did you boil it? If so, why?
Really? You came all the way back here for coffee?
Spite wanted out.
I need coffee.
Did you stop for coffee again?
This smells amazing.
You'll have to kill me.
Well, that's awkward.
No, I like her. She's fun. I want to talk to her.
Throughout nerd media, there's a very real problem of certain types of people hijacking popular franchises to force their own values onto it, often with lore-breaking modern language and ham-fisted writing. This is Dragon Age Veilguard in a nutshell. It's so desperate to be seen as inclusive that it forgoes all world building and logic. Characters will speak of being transgender and non-binary, never mind these have not been terms used in previous games. In fact, Dragon Age Inquisition has a trans character. His name is Krem, and he's a trans man, but he is labeled with an imaginary Kunari word which means born as one gender but living like another. However, to the grievance monger brigade, having a trans character in a AAA video game was not good enough, and people whined. Just this week, Stacey Henley at thegamer.com wrote that Krem's depiction was cowardice, saying, and I quote, "There was a trans character, but he didn't use the word transgender, and a Kunari word that sounded more fantastical was made up to fit the world. But it also, to me as a trans woman, felt like an excuse for not committing to the bit. He's not really trans, he's this fictional thing," end quote. I'm sorry, but are you fucking retarded? He's literally trans, and they use a Kunari word that fits the world because it better suits the fiction. That is much stronger writing than the bullshit on display in Tardguard, and it's this incessant whining from other trans people that is ruining positive examples of representation. What Veilguard contains is lazy and repulsive. Like, take a look at this codex entry. It uses phrases and terminology such as trans women are women, gender fluid, agender, demigender, and much more, but it isn't at all cohesive to the rest of the series. It's simply there as a current age political statement, but political statements won't resonate with anybody if it's ham-fisted and shoved into orifices it doesn't belong. It's just there for the developers to pat themselves on the back and to get updates from easily appeased redditors or dipshit game bloggers, but to everyone else it's a joke. As recent polling shows, or just, you know, the fact that President Trump just won a second term while running partially on trans issues, the country is getting sick of this stuff. I have a whole video called Trans Activists Are Their Own Worst Enemy. I'm well aware of the problems trans people have brought upon themselves, and this type of lazy, cheap content only adds to it. Like, yeah, sure, it's just a video game. There's bigger problems in the world, both for trans people and non-trans people alike. But bad PR is bad PR, and this content doesn't help the public perception of people like me. And the public perception right now is that, by and large, trans people are a horde of grievance-mongering piss babies who are never satisfied and who want to ruin your entertainment media with lazily injected politics. And sadly, I can't say that it's wrong, because I'm trans and I see it. Believe it or not, but I'm not opposed to representation. It can have a positive impact on people. I'm not ignorant of that. Growing up, Marco and Degrassi The Next Generation was super important to me coming to terms with what I am. Seeing a gay character my own age helped me accept a truth I was scared to address. But representation, and to a larger degree political themes, need to be done well. It can't exist just for representation's sake. Otherwise, it's tokenism, and I'd much rather have far less LGBT characters in the media if it meant the ones that did appear were well written and made sense within the fiction. As you can tell with Dragon Age Fucktardguard, cut me some slack, I'm running out of these, it does not make sense. At every turn, it feels hollow. Consider the character creator. You can have top surgery scars to represent boob removal, but you can barely give yourself a set of cans beyond that of an A-cup. The game is bending over backwards to appease the minority of trans men who will play it, but women with naturally bigger boobs are left in the dust. For a game that relied on the gaming media to market it on its inclusivity, said inclusivity is quite shallow and performative. One could say it's even exclusive. It doesn't even take into consideration a wide swath of the general population. But I understand why it's like that. It takes extra work to readjust armor and clothes to accommodate different body types. Likewise, it takes extra work to create fictional terminology that accommodates gender nonconformists within an already established fictional world. And as Bioware has shown, they're not willing to put in the time or effort, so we just get horribly cheap writing as they sit there waiting for us to pat them on the back for doing the bare minimum. Unaided by simple-minded journalists who claim it's better this way. But if you're gay or trans, I'm begging you, stop guzzling down the slop. Have some fucking standards while also realizing that well-written LGBT characters will help with acceptance rates far more than lazy agitprop. And don't get it wrong, this is preachy bullshit. They wanted to make people mad. At one point, characters literally explained to the camera that there's no proper way to apologize for accidentally misgendering somebody, telling the viewer that the best you can do is physical exertion to make up for it, as if somebody doing push-ups, or barbs as they call it, wouldn't be more awkward to a trans person than a simple, oh hey, I'm sorry, it was a genuine mistake, won't happen again. Before totally moving on, I do want to add, I like political and philosophical themes within my art. My favorite books, film, TV shows, and video games tend to shine a light on the human condition. I love good subtext. I like when authors expose the ills of society. I even like when some stuff is fairly blatant. But good political themes take skill, and the people who wrote this game lack any and all talent. There's no nuance, no subtlety, no deep commentary. The best they could do is jam modern phrases into it as if that actually means anything, and that is pathetic. The problem as I see it isn't that a trans-adjacent character exists. When well written, I'm a fan of it. The problem is that these current age writers can't make these characters fit without making a show of it and ruining what came before. They're so focused on identity politics that they don't see the forest for the trees, and they're taking everything down with them.
So, I'm non-binary.
What does that mean?
It means I don't feel like a man or a woman.
If you are neither a man nor a woman, then what are you?
Non-binary. I just said, and I'm going to use they instead of she from now on.
If this is because I have criticized your dress or your manners...
It isn't!
Under the Cune, the term for one whose gender does not match the one given to them at birth was a cunithlok. Perhaps you are like that.
Why do you have to keep picking at it? Why can't you just be happy for me?
Evatash, chakra to ebra.
So I'm supposed to struggle with who I am? Even if I don't feel like I fit, even if I feel wrong?
No, you misunderstood.
Then say it better! Why am I never enough for you?
Not helping the representation issue is that the non-binary character in DA4 is easily the worst character Bioware has ever created. Tosh, or Trosh, as I call him, is genuinely foul. You saw the cold open to this video 27 minutes ago with the children's music, and it is more fitting than you realize. Trosh is a petulant child who is so miserably written that it feels as if they were designed as a mockery of trans people, which makes it all the more mind-blowing that a non-binary person wrote them. Trosh is completely out of touch and out of place with the rest of the series. The character is a sniveling idiot with mommy issues who behaves as if they're above everyone else. They are written as one of the most morally good people in the game, too. A super queer, eat-the-rich, anti-colonialist treasure hunter who makes sure to return priceless artifacts to the cultures they belong to. Take that, Laura Croft. They also have a holier-than-thou attitude and expect the world to bend over backwards for them, such as when one character eats the last piece of bread from a communal food bowl, a mortal sin because it's Trosh's favorite food, so it was theirs by right. Bafflingly, this is right after the misgendering apology scene, and the punishment for eating the food is to pull a barv. The character is petulant and selfish. Actually, scratch out what I said a few moments ago. When phrased like that, I do understand how a self-identified non-binary person could come up with that. Calm down, it's a joke. Kind of. But no, trash is bad. They expect characters to properly identify them, while simultaneously not respecting the identity of others. Even worse still is that the character feels like one big massive self-insert. In the story, their mom is addicted to an ancient tablet, and all the dialogue surrounding it comes across as if the writer's real mom is addicted to an iPad or something. At one point, we're even supposed to disagree with the mother, but if you have any ounce of rationality, you'll see that she isn't doing anything all that bad. And instead, Trosh is just a fucking brat. It's right after coming out as non-binary, and the mother mentions the Kunari word for feeling trans, and she gets scolded for it. So here she is, trying to be understanding in a moment of her own confusion, framing the problem with words she knows, words, mind you, that fit the previously established universe, and Trosh angrily rejects it. Please clap for the writer. What brave storytelling. Way to sacrifice history and fantasy for ham-fisted modernism and online praise from an ever-shrinking corner of the fandom.
Hey! Captain Corpse asshole! The treasure is ours!
What the crap is that?
Be ready. They go hard.
The modern language of Trosh extends throughout the game, and the character is deeply emblematic of everything wrong with the experience. You'll see phrases or terms like punching up, what the crap, and other things of that sort. It's just so out of place. Trosh is also just really dumb, completely disconnected from every previous game or even the events within this one. Take the line, who doesn't like dragons? I don't know, you dumb bitch. Maybe everyone else in this world but you. Dragons are scary, they destroy cities, kill people, and in this very game, some of them have been blighted and are wreaking havoc. How can you not understand that other people would want to avoid them? All of this would be one thing if we were supposed to root against Trosh, but this is the dev team's baby. During interviews, it's clear that they see them as likable and great. And if that doesn't sum up the type of people who made this game, then I don't know what does. Trosh is bad, and so is this dumpster fire of an experience.
Second, it's Emmerich, Tash. My name is Emmerich, not Death Mage, not Corpse Guy, not... I won't repeat the rest.
What? You are a death mage.
Why are all my attempts to converse with you met with scorn? What have I done to you, Tash?
You talk about corpses too much.
She felt it all over. Her attraction to the hero, a powerful but properly contained tingle, nearly exquisite.
I've already compared Veilguard to The Matrix 4 and Disney, but if you'll allow me to compare it to just one more thing, it's Booktok. Where earlier games felt more dark fantasy, this game is romantasy. It's young adult chick lit, and I mean that as derogatorily as possible. It checks all the boxes of what's popular on Booktok. From the overuse and misuse of LGBT themes, the ham-fisted politics, and the whimsical and light nature of most cutscenes. It's bad. It's made more to appeal to young queer white women with their stupid Stanley Cups than it is fans of previous games. Bellaria sums this up well. She's maybe the second worst companion Bioware has ever created. She's Booktok personified, a quippy little dork who's exceptionally morally good, easily upset, and grating beyond belief. Hell, she's even writing young adult-esque romantic fantasy throughout the game. It's a bit on the nose.
That's great. I'm glad it's going well.
It is. It helps. All of what we do, I mean. Not that I'm writing about us, but, well, it's us inspired.
If you know anything about Booktok, you know they are easily offended. Young adult authors can risk cancellation over the most minor of missteps. And boy oh boy does this game seem terrified at the prospect of offending anybody. You can't even be mean to your companions or really anyone else except a rich dude and the main villains. There's no true renegade playthrough or an equivalent. Blood magic is also no longer a thing you can partake in. Everything is so safe, so sanitized. It honestly feels as if the devs focused so hard on the LGBT themes that they didn't want you to be mean to certain characters, lest it somehow devalue their identity. So now you can't be mean to anybody. Think about it. You have a party member whose entire arc is coming to terms with being non-binary, and if you had a renegade playthrough or were a hard ass, that'd clash with it, because you have to be the accepting good guy. You have to be the lawfully good hero. There's no room to shut Trosh down or to scold her for being annoying. To not be wholesome would be to devalue their arc, and that would make the self-insert sad. I can't overstress just how clean and nice this game is. As I mentioned in my segment about Saints Row, everything has been sanded down and kitified. For instance, cute mascots are overabundant. A companion named Davrin has an emotive baby griffin. The necromancer Emmerich has a happy-go-lucky skeleton servant. And another named Nev works in an office with playful little wisps. That doesn't even begin to get into the other random interactions that feel ripped from a G-rated film. Even ogres look like derpy little dipshits meant to appeal to snotty-nosed 5-year-olds. The new art style is as if you took... I've been struggling with this line, god damn it. The new... Fuck, I'm leaving this in. The new art style is as if you took pool noodles and wrapped them around the edges of older games. Everything about Veilguard is safe. Gone are the days where you could be cruel to people or stiff with your companions. Instead, you feel like a babysitter to bickering toddlers. The tone is off all across the board. During combat, you even do wrestling moves. By default, my character had a drop kick and an elbow slam. The game should just be renamed to Saints Row the Veilguard. That this has an M rating and is aimed at adults is insulting. But honestly, I've ranted enough about this subject, so I'm just going to let the game speak for itself. See you in a couple minutes because it's montage time.
Shame?
No. I mean, yeah. You try moving rocks with your mind.
I don't want to be an assassin. Not really. But it's always good to learn new things. Some of them assassin adjacent. Oh, and I'll make us sandwiches.
Ah, your famous ham and jam slam?
Well, yam and jam slam because you don't eat meat.
Well, wasn't expecting to fight an ogre today. Then again, I also didn't expect to learn that my gods are rampaging around and trying to end the world. You know, it's weird. I mean, besides, well, our entire lives right now.
What?
We've got an illuvian that goes anywhere, and we've taken it all over Thedas to fight evil. But a spice I've been missing for a week, that would take me 5 minutes to get. Still can't find the time to do it, and it's one of the good ones. Undead. Well, dead bodies animated by spirits, technically.
Hey, Melara, why did ancient elves put traps everywhere?
Oh, did they? Oh, I mean traps. What kind of traps?
The kind that set you on fire.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, it's the magic. It's gotten all confused. My actual gods are out there trying to end the world, and Nev Gallus is on the case. I can't believe it. Oh, that doesn't smell good. Oh, it's sticky. Why is it sticky?
Blood. Hopefully.
I'm sorry your brother has an elven god in his head.
Sort of. Thanks. I'm sorry. I shouldn't make it anyone else's problem.
That's Vashadon.
What?
It means garbage.
Okay. Yes, context clues help there. But what do you mean, garbage?
Having finished the game in its totality, if you told me that 95% of the dev team had never made a game before making Triteguard, I would instantly believe you. Much of it is amateurish or poorly thought out. Taken a step further, I'd also believe you if you told me no one on the team had ever played a video game before. It's like that old meme. I had a machine learning device watch 1,000 hours of AAA video games and then told it to make its own, and this is what it churned out. The AAA pieces are all here, even fucking squeeze-throughs and edge shimmies, but human logic is out the window. Take one of my biggest pet peeves from Inquisition. Jump and interact are on the same button. I know a number of people who this also drove up a wall. You go to pick up an item and then you just start jumping around like a moron because it doesn't register the pick-upable properly. This led to lots of complaints. Well, guess what? This stupid sequel does the same shit. Countless times I ran to go pick up an item or open a chest and I'd hop about, sometimes even yeeting myself off a cliff. Now, this game actually made me want to yeet myself off something, but not like that. Why is it like this? Have you never played a video game before, Bioware? This is bad input design. Put them as different buttons, or at least give me an option to separate them. You have full controller remapping, but I can't separate jump and interact. Why are you like this? Let me talk to the manager. This is stupid. On top of that, the gear upgrade system is annoying. At your home base, there's something called the Caregiver, and here you can spend resources to upgrade armors and weapons. So far so good. But to level up the Caregiver, hence allowing further levels to increase your weapons and armor, you have to find collectible codexes hidden throughout missions and open world areas. There's over 180 of them in the game. Most will give you 50 points, and you need 12,000 to reach max blah, 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 and you need 12,000 to reach max upgrades. I'd have much preferred if stronger metals appeared in later areas as the story progressed, which allowed me to upgrade my gear, a la Dark Souls or something. Likewise, leveling up factions is beyond stupid. You get points for side quests, which, yep, that's cool, makes sense, fine, but that's not always enough to max out their ranking. So to increase the faction score, you have to sell luxury goods to a faction merchant, but these goods barely give you any points. So you'll scour environments for as much random trash as possible, or you'll go and use gold to buy a finite amount of them from other merchants just so you can return to the faction merchant to resell them the same goods for points. It's sloppy and half-assed. My partner theorized this was a relic from when the game was originally going to be a live service, which would also explain some of the other currencies. And when she looked online to find info about it, she found other people speculating the same. Throughout the 80-hour ordeal, there was a smattering of awkwardness. At one point, I had a mission to find treasure. The clue said to follow the maw of the skeleton to its tail, so I did exactly that, but in only waist-deep water, I drowned. In another instance, and side note, I'm not showing footage due to massive spoilers, but I was fighting the final secret dragon, and due to an earlier quest I had completed, I had a powerful being come give me a brief moment of aid. She attacked the dragon and knocked it out while it was across the arena from me, so I began sprinting to it because its weak spot was finally exposed, but before I could cover the distance, it had already recovered. I had no control over when she'd appear, so it was a complete waste of a chance to speed up the duration of a long fight. In other areas, it feels like the developers are following a game design textbook to a T. It's big on the rules of 3, and most irksome is that one point it has the gall to make a joke about it. Now, I don't know if you remember gaming discourse in the mid-2000s to like 2012 or so, but a bunch of games started making sarcastic remarks about, hey, why is there always 3 of these? And people were annoyed by the repetitive joke, especially when popular sentiment was, why don't you stop joking about it and just design games differently? It actively pointed out the laziness of the design choice without rectifying it. Self-awareness for no other reason to be self-aware. And here fucking Bioware is making that same repetitive ass joke. And hey, I know this won't bother as many of you, but it is still design, and that joke died forever ago. And with a $70 game, shouldn't we be demanding more creativity for our bucks? And that's what this game lacks. Creativity. It's not at all creative. In every imaginable way, it's a step back from previous Bioware releases. The studio can't even get elevators right anymore. When you enter a lift, you must wait for your companions to follow you inside. Sometimes this will take a number of seconds, which has me thinking of Mass Effect, where even back then they knew to put the button on the far side of the lift, and when you pushed it, the companions instantly teleported behind you, which sped up the process. I know this is nitpicky to some, and sure, maybe it is, but in a game that already wastes so much time, I don't want to wait for my companions to catch up to me. Speaking of time wasting, the level design is tedious. Every area is covered with balance beams. I was so goddamn sick of the balance beams. The animation to cross them is slow, and not even trying to jump across them speeds it up. Likewise, you will do a lot of platforming, and the animation is super slow. Mantling objects hundreds of times with this drawn-out climb drove me insane. Speed the shit up if you're gonna use it everywhere. The current Bioware devs couldn't even do a finale right. The final missions feature next to no music. It's just quiet as you run and fight your way to a blighted dragon and a god. The mission objective even says, run to the god's stronghold, and it's just devoid of musical tracks. This is the moment where tunes should be building up suspense, getting my blood pumping and building up a sensation of dread. Given how pivotal music is in drawing out emotions, and with how expertly it has been used in older Bioware games, I'm absolutely lost on how this is the final product. The means of blocking off areas in the open world segments is also cheap. They just put up fog doors with a text overlay letting you know it's currently inaccessible. It's immersion breaking. Why not put an impassable cart or a locked door or anything else? As it is, it just feels low budget. Exploration is also limited. There is no going off the beaten path. I learned this early in the hub world where I saw a platform that my character could theoretically reach, but upon jumping, I just hit an invisible wall and fell to the void below. There's 0 fall damage in the game too, but if you see part of a level below you, even if it's not that far, should you try jumping to it, you'll just be teleported back to where you jumped, begging the question of why they designed a level with parts of it so close. Even cutscenes lack logic and smart design. I laughed so fucking hard when a scene popped up that showed my team running away from some darkspawn, dashing through the gaps of a monstrous ribcage, and for some reason the much smaller monsters couldn't fit through these gaps. I'm going to let the entire scene play out. It's so funny. Look at the spacing between the bones.
This is going well. Surrounded by friends.
Surrounded by sharp claws. Whoever you are, face it!
If there's one compliment I'll give the team, it's that the game runs really well. I found only a few small glitches or visual hiccups. In today's age where most AAA games are launched with tons of problems, it is commendable how well it functions, specifically on performance mode. So maybe I'll eat crow on suggesting the team had never made a game before, but running well doesn't mean a whole lot when the rest of the experience is derivative, stale, and outright bad. I'm not being hyperbolic when I say there is next to nothing redeeming about Dragon Age: The Veilguard. The studio once known for its stories couldn't even get that part right, continuing the downwards trajectory they began a decade ago.
Oh, God. Do you want me? Oh, no! Sorry. Just breaking things.
I'm nearing the end of the video and I haven't really talked about the story yet. The short and narrow of it is that Veilguard's plot is a tale of missed opportunities. There was a strong story to tell following the events of Inquisition and its DLC, but Bioware totally drops the ball. Solus is quickly sidelined, and in his stead you're tasked with taking down 2 elven gods. I'm still surprised at how little we actually get of Solus. For much of the game he is imprisoned and relegated to the role of an advisor. Without spoiling anything, there is a late game rug pull, and he does eventually play a major part in the story, but it felt too little too late. All of it is sequestered to the final 2 to 3 hours, and for most players you'll probably be in this game for at least 30 to 40. Solus is a complex character, and his involvement should have made for a far more intriguing plot, but I suppose that would require strong writing to pull off, and the current Bioware dev team lacks the ability to write. So instead we get 2 simple villains who are just comically evil. They want to bring blight to the world and to kill everyone, so as the main character you need to unite various factions to bring the fight to the big bads. It even ends in a big drawn-out suicide mission. But whereas Mass Effect 2's suicide mission felt like it had big stakes and emotional tension as well as an amazing payoff, the end game in Veilguard is beyond flat. Throw in a handful of MCU-like fight sequences and I felt nothing. I've heard of other reviewers praising the last few hours, but I fail to see what they saw. So for some of you probably will get more out of it, but I can only speak from my perspective and I thought it was trash. The main story also features a plot trope that I'm beyond tired of. A blight unleashed by the gods threatens to destroy the world, and there's even a blight dragon, but the dude who runs the wardens refuses to believe the obvious truth right in front of his eyes, so a bunch of time is spent trying to make him open his eyes and see the truth. It's just... It might be a me thing, but that plot point is grating. I'm tired of characters like that. It's a terrible trope in 90% of its uses. Oh my god, the world's being destroyed, but I'm not gonna believe it's happening, even though all this evidence is right here and everyone's dying. Like, it's that. I hate it. Whatever. Sorry, I'm using a lot of voices. And that's all I really have to say about the plot, at least in my attempts to avoid spoilers, because I do have thoughts, but this video is long-winded enough, so I'll sum it up as boring, disappointing, and Disney Marvel-ish. Also romantasy, but I already fucking railed about romantasy more than enough. I hate that word. Like, I'm going off topic, this isn't in my script, but I really, really hate the word romantasy. Every time I walk into Barnes & Noble, they just have this table. It's like popular on Booktok. And it's just full of romantasy novels, and they all have like the same cover. A while back I tweeted a picture, and this is like me rambling now, but I tweeted out a picture, I'd actually gone in Target in this instance, and they had all these romantasy books, and I took a picture of all the covers. There's like 30 covers there, and nearly every single one looked like they belonged to the same series. It's the most interchangeable trash, and I'm tired of seeing it. Also, like cozy fantasy, like I get it has people who like it, but go away. I'm not saying I support book burning, but in the years leading up to the release, the original title of Veilguard was Dragon Age: The Dreadwolf. This title implies that Solus was once going to play a larger role. But on top of that, it's just a badass title. Dreadwolf is a cool name. I don't care who you are. Dreadwolf is fucking cool. And people were rightfully let down when it changed. But upon playing Veilguard, I think it's good that the name was altered, because the original title was far too badass for this romantasy nonsense that feels more like fan fiction than any of the games that came before. And in all reality, I'm not even shocked that this game isn't great. I'm a firm believer that the Dragon Age series peaked with its very first game. Origins is an all-time great, but even in areas where Dragon Age 2 or Inquisition disappointed me, there were still qualities about them that was enjoyable enough. They were on a steady decline, yes, but still worth checking out in one way or another. But Veilguard simply isn't worth playing, not even on a steep discount. Nothing in it is salvageable, and I think Bioware owes fans of the series a massive apology. Or, putting it in language that the current crop can understand, they owe us a barv. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna go die now because this review took like 130 hours and the last few days have been really long. Bye!
The world revolves around you.